Hello and welcome back. We are in chapter 3 now. This is a logic chapter, guys, and this one's really easy stuff, but you got to pay attention because it's going to be brand new. So please, it's the last chapter we're going to do. Please focus. Now, the idea of this chapter is to kind of help, with communication and logical communication is the point, okay? So when you question it, that's what I'm going to tell you. So here we go. Let's go. Starting off, all right, so we're going to start off in 3-1, and we're going to talk about some terms and some basic setups. This is huge for setup, though, so please stay with me as I go through. So we're going to start by talking about connectives at this point in time. Let me go ahead and get set up as of right now. When we talk about connectives, essentially connectives are words that are used to connect thoughts. Examples of these. Alright, well, we can use and, or, and there's another one that we generally use, which is if, then. Okay, but these are basic ideas on connectives. Again, the whole point here is that they're connecting thoughts, okay? Pretty simple stuff again. We continue on now. Now we got to do some definitions here. Again, basic stuff, not hard at all. So, talking about statements at this point in time. Statements are essentially sentences that can be judged to be true or false. Let me get that C-E-S. That can be judged to be true or false. You will see a lot of different examples of statements as we continue through. What is a simple statement? Well, essentially, a simple statement is just a statement that is going to convey one idea. That's why it's simple. Just one idea is being conveyed whenever you work with that. Now, an example of that. Well, if we want to talk about an example of a simple statement, all we have to do is talk about a basic one. So let's go with the fact that the Mississippi River is the longest river in the United States. And if you're wondering, that is a true statement right there. But it's simple because it's just one idea that's being conveyed. All right, so that's simple. Now we talk about a compound statement. And obviously, you can come up with this one on your own. Since a simple statement conveys one idea, a compound statement is a statement that conveys one or two or more ideas. Pretty simple stuff, okay? Let's give you an example of that one too, just to make it really clear. So, example of a compound statement. All right, well, Stephen, he's going to cook breakfast. And Robin is going to set the table. And I'm going to learn to spell here for a minute because, wow, is this getting rough. E, period. Maybe we fix breakfast too so it's not breakfast. Breakfast, there we go. Now, we don't know if this is true or false, but it is an example of a compound statement because there's two things going on here, two thoughts being conveyed. Stephen's cooking breakfast, Robin's setting the table. Pretty simple stuff, guys. Last thing we're going to talk about on this side is a negation. So, whenever we discuss, a negation. Basically, what a negation is the opposite meaning of a given statement. And I'm really going to need you to pay attention to this because it's going to start out looking very, very basic, but it does end up getting a little bit confusing, okay? So we'll talk about some examples moving up. Basic terms on this slide, guys, not hard. So here we go. We're going to start with negation. What is the negation of Mike is at work? Remember, it is the opposite that we're talking about. And a lot of time the opposite just involves putting not in the case because the opposite of Mike being at work is that Mike is not at work. And you're going to sit and start and go, holy cow, is that easy? This is the easiest thing on earth. Well, just wait. It will get a little more complex as we go through. Of that, I promise you. Let's talk about Jessica liking math. So what is the negation or the opposite of Jessica liking math? Well, the opposite of Jessica liking math is that Jessica doesn't like math. I will put dislikes math, as some of you in this class do as well. But it's simple. It's just negation, okay? Now, I do want to show you something going up in the future, okay? Because in the future, we're going to be writing out all of these types of statements with symbols. So the word negation is always actually utilized. The way that we actually write it out as a symbol is like that. That is your symbol for negation. Kind of like a snake going on right there. But that is our symbol. Hey, I'm going to write again. For negation. Wow. See, that's why I typed on this slide. I just can't write it all with this pen. Hey, negation. That's a symbol we're going to use, just setting you up for the future. All right, so we got some more stuff we got to discuss at this point in time, okay? Some other basic terms that we're talking about. We're going to talk about quantifiers now. Now, you got to be careful with quantifiers, okay? Quantifiers, some examples of them, the words all, none, and some. So they're kind of like absolute words. All, none, some. Okay, they kind of are. And this is why these should be approached with caution. Now, here's where you really need to pay attention. Because when we're talking about quantifiers, what they really do is they're going to affect your negation. And this is where you can't just put not in. So you really got to pay attention. Please, come on. Here we go. If you had a statement that started with all are, the negation of that is that some are not, indicating that there's some people that are not. That's the reverse of it, okay? If you've got something that says no people are doing something, the reverse or the negation of that is that some people are doing that. But these are specific, so you have to be very careful. Let's say we said some people are going to the supermarket. The reverse of that is that no people are going to the supermarket. And finally, if we said some people are not sleeping well at night, the reverse of that, or the negation, is that all people are sleeping well tonight. So these are examples where negation can get tough, and that's why you got to be careful with quantifiers. Let's talk about some examples here, okay? Write the negation of each statement. Some dinosaurs are carnivorous, okay? Well, we just learned a slide ago that the reverse of some is that none are, okay? So if we have our statement being some dinosaurs are carnivorous, our negation is that no dinosaurs are carnivorous. Which, if you know anything about dinosaurs, is not a true statement. However, it is the negation of our example in A. Talking about B, and again, these get a little complicated because you got nowhere to start. B says all cars have 4 doors. Well, if you look back to the previous slide, the negation of all was that some do not. So if we said all cars have 4 doors, the negation of that is that some cars do not have 4 doors. As you're aware, some have 2 doors. I think some weird ones even have 3 doors. I'm not really sure about that. But that is how we write that particular negation statement. Be careful. These quantifiers are tough. The last one, no students like science. Well, the reverse of that, or the negation of that, again, the reverse of no was that some. So, if we say that our original statement is that no students like science, our negation is that some students like science. Again, I hope you're seeing how this can get very, very confusing from time to time. So be very careful with the quantifiers when we're doing negation. All right, 2 last pieces for this video. Last slide we've got here, okay? Compound statements. We already talked about this, but I need to reiterate it. Compound statements are statements that convey 2 or more ideas. Pretty easy stuff on that one. We've talked about examples of that. We've talked about not statements, but I need to explain them or make sure that we understand. Not statements are kind of like negation. So, the negation symbol, which we told you about a little bit ago, it represents a not statement. Statement. That's not right. Statement. Come on, learn to type. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and write in your negation symbol. If you haven't already, make sure you do. The negation symbol, once again, is this guy, our little snaky friend. Okay, we're going to need that for the future. That's why I keep on pointing that out to you guys. Continuing on here with our not statements. If we use an example, and our last example will be that John is a college student. Well, the actual not statement for that is the same as the negation, and that would be that John is not a college student. So just another way of talking about negation. College student. This has been our first video for Chapter 3.